All right. Hello and good evening, everyone. You guys just happened to watch The Drive with Q with my hermano, Rich Quinones. So thanks to Rich as he had a quick power hour, and hopefully he'll be back soon to his normal 4 to 6 schedule. It's just a lot that's happening with everyone. It makes it a little bit tough, just like basketball season coming up here for USF, which that's going to get me heavily involved with so many different things. So you'll see some shows maybe condensed. Some shows may not go on certain days, and then other days it'll come back. And so it's just going to be a lot to balance. All we ask for everyone is being one person. It makes it a little bit difficult to put myself mirrored in many different places. But we thank you all for tuning in. Of course, it is Beav's World here on Mondays and Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7. And the reason why we've got an hour come back for those who weren't around last week is because, again, I just mentioned with basketball season. And also, if it's the first time you're tuning in here and have not heard what happened last week, Coach Amir Abdul Rahim had passed away at the age of 43. He has survived by his wife and 2 children. He just went in for just an everyday, normal, routine procedure, and unfortunately had complications during the operation and ended up passing. So the season will go on. I think it was probably the toughest decision by USF and trying to figure out, how they're going to do things, what coach you're going to put in place, because now everyone shifts. Because this was just, obviously that wasn't expected. A death is never expected.
Of course.
But so now they had to move a couple things around. So some coaches may go from bench to assistants to head coach until they figure out what they're going to do next. But November 2nd at the Yingling Center, they will have a celebration of life at 11 a.m. Beav, I would expect that the Yingling Center, if people aren't camping out the night before, it's just going to be absolutely insane on Saturday. And it's going to be, it's not going to be a dry eye, first of all, Wednesday night at the Yingling Center. It's not. But like everything else, unfortunately, even with the late great Dale Earnhardt, as he mentioned, that whenever he passes on, life's got to go on. And so I think the biggest one at that time was Dale Earnhardt Jr., his son, which he knew he had to get back in the race car and do what his dad wanted him to do. So just tough. Not the way the season wanted to start for USF, yet alone for college basketball at all. No one wants to ever lose anyone during the season, but just incredible, completely incredible.
No, it's I can relate. My buddy, the year he became the quarterback of the Patriots in 2001, his quarterbacks coach dropped dead working out at a local gym. He had a heart condition, Dick Rabine, and he collapsed early in training camp in August and died. And Charlie Weiss and Belichick kind of had to redo the coaching staff, and that's just one example. Real life in sports kind of comes together. You and I were just talking. Guy who was one of my mentors and mentored people like Desmond Howard, Tom Brady, Michael Phelps, and countless others. He was going to get a surgery, and he had a similar. He passed away from complications. So, count what you got going, and life is short. You never know what's going to be around the corner, and just live it to the best, and try to have fun and look at the positive things like Angel and I try to do. But it's tough. It's real life. These kids got a season to worry about. Their coach is dead, and he's a big fixture in the community. You talked about they're going to have a memorial at the stadium. I've seen the video of him greeting the fans. And going and shaking hands with the fans outside the stadium before the game. It was a really cool guy. And on top of that, his brother's it was a former really good NBA player on the old Grizzlies, and he still leads the G League. So it's crazy story.
Yeah, it's again not the way the season wanted to be started, but
without question,
the entire season obviously will be dedicated. And I even mentioned this morning. I think even for the folks at Yingling. I know it's the Yingling Center, but I would not be surprised if it gets still the Yingling Center, because obviously the primary sponsor. But to me, somehow another Coach Rahim's name is going to be on that center. I'm pretty sure for many, many years to come. But tough way to start off a season. The expectations were so high. They just got done with the whole media,
Sure.
the photos, the meet and greet, everything else that, they had the day before they had the pep rally, sort of kind of like a pep rally, but they're on Wednesday. And then It's life, man.
Right.
You're, as we mentioned, you're guaranteed the moment, which we're in right now. We're definitely guaranteed the past because we've already been through it. You're just not guaranteed the future. That's the only entire thing. So you take things for what it's worth,
Yeah.
and you hope and pray that when you left, you didn't leave angry. And
Yeah.
as I even mentioned this morning, when you go to bed, try not to go to bed angry. I mean, we're gonna go. There's stuff that's in our minds. Don't get me wrong. When we go to bed, our brains are always constantly working, but you just hope you don't go to bed angry or go to bed upset or not say I love you to that person that's next to you when you go to bed, because you never know what's going to end up happening. But what a crazy weekend in the
Yes, sir.
NFL. Holy moly. And on top of, and I know we mentioned it, I believe Friday morning during the show, is that we all heard that it was supposed to be a must win. And again, what the heck do I know? But I know there was mentioned there's a must win for the Yankees, at least for game one. Then you have Freddie, who decides that, you know what? I'll take this one, knock it out the park. And I mean, a big celebration. His dad was there. I mean, it was just
Oh, yeah.
absolutely insane in Dodgers. I don't think I've ever heard that place the way that eruption
Oh,
happened.
yeah.
What the Dodgers fans got to experience is what we normally experience at Citizens Bank Park during the
Sure.
postseason. This
Sure.
was something completely different. And then at game two, where Freddie Freeman was like, listen, once is nice. How about another one? So it wasn't a grand slam, obviously, but nonetheless, I mean, he homers again. Right now, you talk about the MVP race for the World Series. I think I know who the front runner is right now.
Juan Soto. I'm kidding. No, no. Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman. No, it's amazing because as a Mets fan, he's destroyed us so many times. I mean, the guy on your team, because his whole career was Bryce Harper's murdered the Mets a lot,
Yeah.
but Freddie Freeman just has owned us. And if you understand now, I'm not a big Aaron Boone guy, and I picked the Dodgers to win this series. But if you understand analytics and what they're telling him and what to do, they got Judge out. Then you walk bats because Freddie Freeman's is injured and he's been struggling. Dave Roberts was considering sitting him because they sat him a couple times against my Mets. So he did the right idea. But again, I mean, you would think the Yankees would have a left-handed reliever, not a guy who's a converted starter. But I mean, that's the Yankees. They do big flashy things and they do little things that help you win games, and that's why they're going to lose the series. But I mean, the other part of this is what's happened to Ohtani. With the shoulder subluxation.
Yeah.
Now, having a couple days is going to help. They can probably put a harness or something. If you follow football and other sports, these guys who can play. But swinging a bat is not easy with a messed up shoulder, and they're going to be able to figure out how to pitch to him. But are the Dodgers good enough to overcome that? And Walker Buehler coming tonight, who's a really good pitcher. At one time, he was a great pitcher. He's coming off injuries. But it's going to be really interesting. But the Freddie Freeman thing. And the coolest thing about that home run, he almost landed exactly where Kirk Gibson's home run did, which is really crazy when you think about it. So, and again, Kirk Gibson and the goddamn Dodgers eliminated my team that year to get to the goddamn World Series. So I'm not angry or anything to Angel about it, but no,
Yeah, not at all.
the goddamn Dodgers. But yes, they. And I mean, and for other reasons, I just don't like Kirk Gibson. He went to a really bad college, but we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But it's amazing. They almost landed in the same spot. And but Freddie Freeman's was just in launch up. And the amazing thing is that Cortez guy, the reliever, he threw two pitches because he got Ohtani out. And Ohtani's got to calm down. You cannot swing at the first pitch. This guy's been pitching 6 weeks. Take some pitches, and just be smart about it. And then he did the automatic 4 pitches to walk bats.
Yeah.
And then Freddie crushed that ball. And also, you mentioned he got to see his dad. The situation with his son who's sick. If you don't know that story, Freddie's son's got a rare condition and disease. And he's a good dude. I mean, just go on social media, you'll find things. The one that I like from about 3 years ago, and he's out on Halloween with his kid and his wife, and there's a kid dressed up as Freddie Freeman, and he runs into him. And the kid halfway through it realizes that's Freddie Freeman, and Freddie's talking to him. And there's a lot of stories like that. you see a lot of social media guys, the Chipper Joneses, the Dale Murphys, that are Atlanta Braves royalty, and they're happy for Freddie. And what a mistake by the Braves. I know they signed Matt Olson, but please, cannot let Freddie Freeman go. Like the Mets cannot let Pete Alonso go, but that's a whole other story.
It's are they? And I know we're talking about the Dodgers, but do you, in I guess in both of our opinions here, are the Mets looking to once again, as they mentioned before, to spend a little more stupid money again this season, or are they kind of going to pump the brakes, evaluate what they have, and try to see what they can work with from the farm system?
They can do both because a lot of their money's coming off from Scherzer, all the mistakes they made, Scherzer, Verlander. And by the way, that team won 101 games 2 years ago. Verlander, Scherzer, McCann, and there's a couple other guys. They can do both. They have a lot of good young guys coming. Obviously, Alvarez, the catcher. Vientos, everybody saw. They've signed Nemo. Marte's coming off the books after next season. They have a lot of things done, and they still have Senga, David Peterson, Maygill. I think they'll bring Minea back. They will qualify offer Severino, and then they'll go get another pitcher. And Soto or any big expenditures of Steve Cohen. The baseball ops are allowed to do whatever they want. But if Cohen says to them, I want you to give $800 million to Soto, they'll do it. But that's the big expenditures. Now, remember, this is very important. And people miss this part. During the playoffs, when Lindor was going good, remember Steve Cohen said, hey, how's that? That's $317 million looks really good right now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, remember, this is also very important. The Yankees going this far, they've raised like $75 million. I saw this because of postseason seats and boxes and things. So they've raised money. I know we're crying for the poor for the Yankees, but the Yankees should never not be outbid by anybody unless, I mean, Steve Cohen's the second richest owner in sports. But I think you made a good point, Angel, a couple of years ago. When you say, oh, silly money, they were trying to win when they had some older players. It's like when they got Pedro Martinez, when they had David Wright and Carlos Delgado and Beltran and Jose Reyes. They were trying to win. Your team bringing in Halliday. When your team, because you had Utley, Rollins, and Howard, and those guys, Jason Worth. So you try to win and add. I mean, your team's going to add guys. They could use another starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. And their bullpen, they had a bad series against us, but their bullpen was pretty good most of the year. But, and the other thing is, in these playoffs, everything gets magnified. One of my friends is up this weekend who's an advanced guy. And, I mean, you see how Class A got lit up because they studied him. The guy allowed 5 runs all year. He allowed 8 runs in the postseason because they see him every night. There's intricacies these guys do. Guy holds his glove different. Guy moves his hand down, things like that. There's things you learn watching these guys consistently. One of the reasons why the Red Sox used to have one of the few teams that had success against Mariano Rivera, they saw him all the time. He was in their division forever. And they also had a lot of really good hitters, but they also saw him all the time and got comfortable against him. He only throws one pitch. So it's going to be interesting. But I think the Mets obviously are going to spend, but do I think they're going to just go out and buy guys? No, they don't have to. They have a lot of really good young players. I mean, Vientos is going to play. Alvarez is going to play. Lindor's sign. Nimmo's going to play. They have a lot of young guys coming, too, in the system. So they'll be fine. But obviously they need to add some pitching. That's the biggest priority.
Yeah. Now the Dodgers, of course, take the trip across the coast over to New York. Mm-hmm. To get it going for Game 3. New York now desperately in a must-win situation. Obviously not for just Game 3, Game 4, and possibly end up Game 5 because then you head back to the West Coast. But I don't think – I would have thought at least – and I know we mentioned it. I would have thought at least it would have split the series. I could see the Yankees at least – if they didn't win Game 1, they would have won Game 2. Now, the kind of like the best part – and it's in every sport – because we all get fired up. We all get, we get to the point. I mean, yesterday, for example, different sport, but we're watching a game, my wife and I here inside the studio as I was doing work, and you see the Bears, and the Bears look like, wow, and it's it. Game over.
I know. They kind of were about to steal the game. Yeah, they were trailing the whole game.
Yeah. So, you figured, and it was only 9-0, at the half, so it wasn't bad. And for the most part, I mean, the Redskins were kind of screwing themselves, and so were the Bears. But he turned around and was like, all right, this is good. Like the final 2 minutes, I think, of the first half of the games, the morning games or the afternoon games, excuse me, end up being absolutely nuts. But you figured, okay, here, everybody's getting ready. This game should be over, blah, blah, blah. You got the safety basically showboating on the side, telling the fans kind of like a be quiet type situation. And he's the one that tips the ball and into number 85's hand to be able to then score the touchdown. But,
Yeah.
it's the reaction. Like when you're same way, when you're at Dodger Stadium, like you're thinking like, okay, all right, here we go. It's the 10th inning. I mean, okay, we can do this, right? And it's always that belief. And I'm pretty sure, like me, you probably do the same thing too. Like I've been out in the ballparks and I always scream out like, drop the ball, drop it. And of course, I was saying 99% of the times they don't drop the ball, at least when they don't need to. But who knows what everybody was saying out there in Dodger Stadium, and then all of a sudden that launch I mean, it will be the highlight for years to come, and especially again because Freddie's dad was there. So now you switch over to New York, you go down to the Bronx. It is a definite must-win situation for the Yanks now. Depending on what happens with Otani, I mean, that was, and again, it's freak accidents. Who knew? Just, obviously just trying to brace himself going to second. And all of a sudden, obviously it shoots up and into his shoulder. So he gets maybe a day or two of rest. Hopefully he's able to come back. But now he was just rehabbing because he's supposed to come back next year to pitch. So now there's this.
I didn't think of that. Great call, Angel. Great call. No, it's interesting because they have Jeter, A-Rod, and David Ortiz were the pregame hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, like almost exactly 20 years ago, Derek Jeter got hurt sliding into third base, and his shoulder hit a guy in the Blue Jays. The guy had like a protector, I think, on his shin, and Jeter messed up his shoulder. It's one of the. I think he separated his shoulder, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you probably remember this because it was a big deal when he did it. And you're a huge baseball guy, but yeah, you see stuff. It's just a fluky play. I mean, go on the tag or dive, head first with the slide or extending your arm. But yeah, I still think the Dodgers are good enough to win. Particularly now that Freddie is heating up, and sooner or later Mookie Betts is going to get a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And they have so many other guys, and the Yankees just don't have enough pitching. The Yankees have to win the games. You and I have talked about this. The Yankees have to win the games Garrett Cole pitches.
Yeah,
and that was the mistake Boone made, and Derek Jeter talked about this on the post and pregame show, that they took him out too early. He was at 88 pitches, and Cole looked good. You have to. This is what happened to the Mets. They beat up their secondary pitching, and the Yankees pay Garrett Cole a lot of money, and they need to figure it out. These other guys, Luke Weaver and Kirk Cousins, his nephew, and all these, not his nephew, it's his cousin, excuse me. Kirk Cousins' cousin is the Cousins on the Yankees, if people don't know that.
right.
And, and to lose the game on like your fifth starting pitcher throwing a lollipop to Freddie Freeman, they're the Yankees. I mean, really? That's why, make fun of the Mets all you want. When they were in game 6, Carlos brought Diaz in the fourth inning to try to stop it and give us a rest. And hey, I'll figure out the fifth and sixth inning in the fifth and sixth inning. And you're right, to do that. And that's one of the things, by the way, the Tigers did with AJ Hinch and his pitching staff after they traded everybody. That they didn't really have a designated closer. They just in a big spot in the game. And your Phillies kind of did this too because they had a lot of different relievers. That you got to when you need to stop the game in a big situation. I mean, if you stop the bleeding in the fifth inning, and Bryce Harper and Castellanos and the boys hit a bunch of home runs, and Schwarber hit home runs, you're winning 12-5 in the ninth inning. What the hell are you going to use your closer for? You don't need them then.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to think strategically when things are the biggest point in the game. It's not like football where you have a timer and you know when the game's going to end. You got to get 27 outs, whoever has the most runs. And it's a different mental game. It's harder for me when I'm watching the game than playing it because I'm mentally playing it in my head. And the Mets games exhausted me. And it wasn't just the Dodgers games where they just destroyed our secondary pitching, just wore us out. Because we were such a terrible matchup for the Dodgers because We walk a lot of guys because we don't have plus stuff. We have older veteran guys who will not give up cookies and give up home runs. So they're going to nibble and make you chase. And the Dodgers don't chase bad pitches. And it was just a bad matchup. The Yankees' problem is they faced all these pop gun offenses in the playoffs, Cleveland and Kansas City. And both of those teams have like one player each that would play for the Dodgers. I mean, you're talking about Martinez, the third baseman, on the Indians, and Bobby Witt Jr. on the Royals, and it's just not. Their just lineups are not sustainable, comparable. I mean, the Yankees sit guys. The Dodgers sit guys like Kiki Hernandez when he doesn't play, who would be like the fourth or fifth best player on either of those teams. So, and Max Muncy moves around. Chris Taylor. I mean, there's so many different guys and just good players. And, talking to a couple of my friends this weekend, I guess the Dodgers have a bunch of pitchers coming from the minor leagues, just what they need.
Well, with that, we are going to take ourselves a really quick break here because last couple of shows, we've kind of blown right through them because once we Beav and I get going, it's just it's like just empty out the chamber. It's round after round after round, and it goes by quick. So we will be back. Don't forget, you guys can call or text the show 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. And for those who did not either happen to catch earlier the message that we have put out there, all the live shows, if you go to sr1029thegame.com and you're on the homepage, you will now see two sets of pictures. One will be right below that. There's a button you can click where it says you can, and all the live programming is now over on the sports radio tab. So I make it super simple. You guys just press it, takes you over to sports radio, and you see the live shows, all the live shows on the network that are there. For example, right now it's Beav's World. Then you can download the app. It's right next to it where you can just click download the app. That's one way to do it. And of course, I still have to bring up the QR code here on B's show, so you guys can also do it that way. But you can always download the app directly through the website. So in case you are wondering, where is the show? It is still on the website and it's still on the app. It is just over on the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game tab. Therefore, you won't miss a thing. All right. We are going to come back as I think Navy got shocked by Notre Dame, and who saw that one coming? So right after these quick break, and it might be less than 2 minutes, we will be back and bring you some more here from Beav's World. It is Beav and Angel here on a Monday afternoon. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Massachusetts, is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Last month, you might remember Tim Thomas, legendary Bruins goalie, returned on October 5th. What a turnout it was. And now a new event coming up. On Saturday, November 30th, it's Willie O'Ree. Yes, the original Jackie Robinson of the National Hockey League. He'll be signing autographs to the public, $25 each. There'll be photos, pucks, and cards available. Phone orders are welcome. Just call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Welcome back here at Beav's World. It is live Mondays and Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7 p.m. It is a condensed hour as basketball is getting ready to be kicked off there at USF. So that's the reason why you guys will hear the short condensed show here from Beav's World. So now that we're back here from the break, don't forget you guys can always call or text the show, as I mentioned before, 727-858-6650. And you can also make your live comments here on the socials. But who knew, Beav, that Navy would get stunned by Notre Dame?
I mean, that was crazy. They put 51 on them. And, Navy did un-Navy like that. I could make a joke that Notre Dame sunk the ship. But it was crazy to watch it. And, the two military schools being ranked so high and having the rough weekend. BYU's up there too, Boise, when you look at the non-Power 5 teams. So, yeah, it was a great win for Notre Dame. Notre Dame has good players. I mean, they got a lot like Michigan. They got like 4 or 5 high draft picks, particularly on defense. Howard Cross Jr. and then Morris in the corner, and they have some other guys. But they have a really good team, and they're just Coach Freeman figuring out the offense and how they want to play. But they're good, and that was a very impressive win for them.
Now, I'm switching from the college ranks here to over now to New England. You're still, I guess, home away from home, but it's funny because people had mentioned that Gerard Mayo was going to be let go, right? There's somebody put out there, he's going to be let go. Oh, okay, and then they beat. I don't think
that's going to happen. But continue, yeah. And you and I talked about this, yeah.
Yeah. So they turn around, they beat the Jets. You got once again Aaron just saying Aaron things, which makes absolutely no sense.
We need to check on Rich Cimini to make sure he's alive. He has to cover this nonsense.
I do go back to
the Adams thing, right? He said that on our show.
Yeah,
which was really cool. But I'm sure Devontae misses Vegas right now.
Yeah, it's funny because that's what I mentioned earlier on the earlier programs was you went from like you basically you moaned and groaned. You wanted to get away from the Raiders because alleged, the Raiders, and you played Kansas City, whatever. But
they always play them hard. Antonio Pierce has done a good job against them. It's weird.
Yeah. But now, okay, so now how much are you going to cry? Because at this point, you wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody believes that he's cooked, that he's done.
Oh, he is cooked.
Yeah. But then you decide now you want to go play New York. And so now what? Are you going to request yet another trade? Or how much do you believe? Because there's nothing left in the tank. I'm sorry. For Rodgers fans out there, I don't know how many are out there, but there's nothing left there. And then the Jets organization as a whole, what on God's green earth do they have to do to be able to even convince one fan that they're actually going to get it right come next season?
There's an obvious thing they could do. Hire Bill Belichick, but guess what? He'll never go there.
No.
I mean, they could hire Jesus Christ right now, and I don't think anybody would believe in them. I mean, Angel, you're available. You'd be an upgrade. Did you see, Mike Francesa is one of my heroes. His podcast, everybody's seen this and heard about this, the rants he did. You realize when they got the touchdown late in the game to take the lead, they took a delay of game penalty when they're going for 2 points. And supposedly Rodgers said, he wanted the 7 yards to do the 2-point play instead of the 2 yards. So now Aaron is the GM, the coach, and the offensive play caller now. The Jets, used all 3 of their timeouts in the first quarter. They didn't have timeouts. If you see what happens, Aaron Rodgers likes to run the clock down and snap the ball late. It's what he's doing in Green Bay. And it's just the silliness with this team. And listen, they might want to fire that kicker. I mean, he's probably cost him in 4 or 5 games. Good to see Joey B chiming in. But no, it's crazy that they have surrendered to that loser, and he's just they deserve each other. They really do. And clearly, I mean, you and I talked about this, Angel. Robert Saleh wasn't the problem, but we already knew that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just you realize they're going to win more games with Zach Wilson they did last year than they will with this clown. And by the way, would it shock you if in the next 2 to 3 weeks if Aaron showed up at practice and said, "You know what, screw this, I don't want to play anymore"?
No, not at all. I'd be more than expecting for it to happen because at this point, I mean, like I said, if you're a season ticket holder, how pissed off can you be?
Oh my God.
Year after year, and you're like, you know what? Because think about it. How many of them probably said last season, "Screw it, I'm not going to do it." Then if Aaron gets injured, whatever, then we're like, you know what? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen.
Okay, so Joey B, I see your question. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Michigan game.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sorry, Angel. What was the end there? You said about Michigan. I mean, excuse me, about the Jets. Go ahead. Sorry.
If you're a season ticket holder, like and you were,
well, you get very low standards.
Yeah, but so you got to figure people. If you
Shep's going to kill me tomorrow. I was just texting him earlier today about. Remember when I came on for like the second time I came on with you guys in the morning? I said I thought the Jets were going to have a good team,
right?
Because listen, here's Jay's lesson of the day. And of all people, I'm going to be 53 in about 10 days. You should all listen and learn from what I'm about to tell you. I broke one of my own rules. I watch a lot of preseason football. I know I've got no life, but I watch a lot of preseason football, and I thought the Jets looked good, and that's what I based it on. Another team that, by the way, I liked in the preseason, this is funny, it was Nebraska, because I watched every team's spring game, and I liked Nebraska. And by the way, you know who looked awful in their spring game? Indiana. So it's another one of example of you don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, the Jets. And listen, and you and I have kind of talked about this, Angel. Aaron Rodgers not being fully committed to football, and this goes back to when he was on the Packers at the end.
Yep.
And it's very hard to win in the NFL. And if you're not fully committed, you don't work hard, and it's not a priority in your life. It's like, Vince Lombardi, your family, the Green Bay Packers, and God, whatever order. Well, where do you think football is in Aaron's pecking order? And it's low. And I said this to you a while ago. Tommy and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2020 team ended his career when they went into Lambeau and beat them. And he's never been the same. There's no aura with him. Nobody's afraid of him. And it's just a clown show. Joey B, I'll talk about Michigan. Hold on. We're doing NFL, but I will talk about Michigan. I live 2 blocks from the stadium, and I was tailgating with the captain and the starting one of the captains in this family and the starting quarterback before the game last Saturday. We will talk about Michigan and the goddamn Michigan State Sparties.
We'll talk about him here in a second. I'm going to play this before we get into Joey's question here. Because on the Pat McAfee show, they talk about like they have the the overreaction segment type deal.
Sure. And Coach Belichick was on today too.
Yeah. So they had this one talking about the overreaction maybe by Greeny. So here's the comment, and then we'll
fire everybody. I heard about this. Let's see it.
Yeah.
I love Joe Benigno. I grew up listening to Joe Benigno. So go ahead.
Sorry-ass team has put the Jets fans into a full spiral. Here's Mike Greenberg from this morning. Non-overreaction, he says.
The New York Jets of 2024 are one of the colossal failures in sports history.
He's not wrong.
When we talk about the true failure teams, people always go back to the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles who called themselves the Dream Team, who, by the way, finished 8-8. This team isn't going to finish anywhere near 8-8. This is a team that went as all in as any team ever has. And I can't say I thought it was the wrong thing to do. As it was happening, I thought it was the right thing to do. So I guess I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. But when you consider the future Hall of Fame quarterback and the trade they make for his longtime best friend and all these young players they have on the roster and they fire the coach because it's going to make them better and it only makes them worse, and everything else, all the words that have been said, all the words that have been written, all the actions that have been taken, all the hype and all the belief that has existed, and what the actual results have been, the Jets of 2024 are one of the greatest, most colossal and embarrassing failures in sports history. And that sticks to all of them. So when people say, does this stick to Rodgers? Yes. It doesn't mean he's not an all-time great. It doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Famer. But it most certainly goes in the permanent record. It goes in the bio. The New York Jets turned over their entire franchise to him, and it got much, much worse. Like, embarrassingly worse. What they're doing is embarrassing to watch. I've been following this team 50 years. I've never been as embarrassed to say that I'm a fan or to say that I believed in them as I have been this season and yesterday in particular, with absolutely everything on the line against a team that for all intents and purposes is tanking and lost their quarterback in the second quarter. For the Jets to lose that game and look as uninspired as they did might genuinely be a new low for a franchise that has hit a lot of lows. So that is the legacy of this group, whatever happens from here. This is one of the colossal failures that we've ever seen in sports.
In sport, he says. I'm going to FaceTime him.
He's right.
If he feels any better now than he did this morning. But, man, I think he's echoing the sentiment of a lot of Jets fans, AJ. They have lost hope, brother. They're saying worst in the history of ball, brother.
Yeah, it's terrible when you lose hope. You always need to have some kind of hope, and I guess with the expectations, yeah, that's Greeny. You lose Greeny off the bandwagon, it's tough.
That's why the win meant so much for New England. Like, of course, 2-6 doesn't matter. But when you take the soul of the New York Jets fan base, it is the greatest feeling. And there was a meme, I forget who did it, but it was talking about how like Patriots high or lowest expectations in the last 25 years, shaking the hand of the Jets, highest expectation in the last 25 years, both 2-6.
Good point.
Guess who's last in the division right now?
Who's that?
New York Football Jets.
Jeez, no answer from Greeny.
And
That's
they
probably
don't have a quarterback long term.
Yeah. Yeah, but
we do. The Patriots do.
Yeah.
Notice how I said we. I'm not a Patriots fan, but I said we. The Patriots season is successful. They don't win another game. Their season's successful because Drake May is going to be really good. And the Jets have nothing at quarterback.
By the way,
that escaped mental patient playing quarterback who's ruined their team.
You couldn't cue that fire truck that passed by your place at a perfect time when Greeny was talking about how
I called the city and I set that up for the Jets segment. Yes. I tell you, Angel, I sort of live on Main Street. So I live 2 blocks from Michigan Stadium, and you should see the circus I have go by here almost every day. It's nuts. Really is.
I bet.
7-Eleven right across the street. You want a Slurpee, I'll go get you one.
Sure, why not?
It's awesome.
It's amazing to me because Green just about 2 weeks ago when Devontae said he was coming, like, that's it, we're gonna win it and everything else. And
I know. They always take the cheese, the dumb Jets fans.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, listen, yes, the Eagles won. We were mentioning before we went on air here that yes, it was, I went and I said to Pete, in all fairness, it went from a cute win to a nice win this week. But we shall see what happens come the following week because the Eagles have to put together a consistent winning formula. Yes. It can be we're going to get there, we're going to win, and then next week, basically, crap in the bed all over again.
Yeah.
You have to remain consistent. And until I see Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni on that same sheet of music where they're doing this and actually coming together, then it's, then you can convince me otherwise. But am I back on like some crazy bandwagon or something else? No, because I will be as honest as I possibly can be. The Eagles should be winning games. The Eagles should also be winning the division, but the Commanders are there pretty much knocking on their door. And now, truthfully, it's for the Redskins to lose the division because at this point, you don't know what you're going to get. I remember when McNabb was here towards the end of his tenure, it was which one are you going to get? Are you going to get halfway decent McNabb or are you going to get the ones that throws to your ankles? And the one that threw to your ankles, you can forget about it, which obviously we knew what happened back in 2005. But, it's just this team, that organization with the Jets, they are really going to have to pretty much pull back everything and say, all right, are we imploding this thing? What are we doing? And the Cowboys are not that far behind either because
there's 2 things there.
Sure.
There's 2 things there. And it's good that you brought this up. The obvious play for both of those teams is trading the young superstar defensive players, Sauce Gardner and Micah Parsons. That's how you do it. Michael Parsons is an obvious trade for the Cowboys. Very overrated player, but he puts up numbers. Sauce Gardner is not Deion Sanders. He's a very good player, but he gave up some plays at the end of the game yesterday if you were watching. But you could get a lot for either of those guys. And you trade them to a championship contender. Look at what the Rams did, where they forfeit a lot of picks to try to win. And then they restocked their team with some other moves, and they got, the 2 Florida State D linemen and a couple other guys, Kerryon Williams, they also drafted, and Blake Corum and some of the other guys, and obviously Puka Tanuka. Pukeniko, whatever the hell his name is. They redid their team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what Dallas and the Jets can do, but the Jets don't have a quarterback. And they're in a division with, it's going to be Drake May, Tua, as long as he's standing up, and Josh Allen. I mean, it's a big problem. And listen, make light of it all you want, but what happened yesterday with the Cleveland Browns is really interesting. Because suppose Jameis Winston, who has shown some good things in the last couple of years, holds up. They're in a division. They got Lamar. The Steelers don't have a quarterback in Joe Burrow. So, if Jameis Winston is kind of what Geno Smith has been for Seattle, the stopgap guy, but I think he can be a little better. And they have a really good team around him. Now, they had some more guys go down in the game yesterday. Their star linebacker got carted off, and it was a pretty bad scene. But they have to manage their team because of the bad Deshaun Watson guaranteed. The contract's fully guaranteed. So they need to kind of do what the Buccaneers did last year, where they brought in Baker. They had their money under control. Then they extended him, and he's happy there. So he worked. And remember, he was a high draft pick. He was the first pick in the draft. Jameis was a high pick in the draft too, obviously. So they both made a lot of money. So they don't need to make $75 million to play quarterback like Dak Prescott is for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But so it's achievable that they could work it out. But, I don't see any positive future for the Jets. The other thing is, both of their lines of scrimmage are very overrated. Their offensive line doesn't get any push. They're not able to run the ball consistently. And that defensive front is good at rushing the passer, but they're not good against run. And the team isn't particularly tough. I mean, they get pushed around. The Patriots kind of pushed them around. They have a million guys out, and they're not a very talented team either. So it's pretty hilarious to watch it. But, and Jacoby Brissett really showed a lot because he was sent to the bench, and he could have moped and bitched and complained. He didn't. He's a leader. That's why he's a really good backup quarterback. And, I mean, the other part of this, too, I thought the hit on Drake May was cheap.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Chris Godwin thing from last week. And by the way, that guy got fined $16,000. Roquan Smith. He probably cost Chris Godwin's start around $30 million in contract because he was leading the league in everything when his leg got broken. But again, it is what it is. But it is, yeah. But it's interesting. Moment of silence for the Jets. There you go. So no bueno. But hey, they got in bed. They got in bed with Aaron Rodgers, like getting in bed with a hooker and getting an STD and complaining about it. So I mean, it's like, I mean, really, I mean, like you didn't know, it's like it is what it is. But
I didn't, and that's the funny part. It's you can't. First of all, he went. When you're reporting to practice, you also know when you're reporting to camp. You also know when there's a voluntary OTAs, then the mandatory OTAs.
About to raise a very valid point, but continue, my friend.
So you know all this stuff. Yet somehow or another, you're going to tell me that the organization was okay with you to watch whales and go into darkness and this, that, and the other. Stop it. And then for the guys that turn around, I would like to hear the honest truth from these guys. When they turned around and defended them, what was it, like game 2 of the season, whatever it was, like, oh no, we stand behind them, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. I'm not falling for it. I don't believe it, because at this point, you cannot tell me that locker room is not beyond pissed off with, okay, last year was the injury, this year is just a total abomination.
Yeah. I mean, I see Joey B's comment, and I'm going to talk about that too. It's pretty funny. But no, but again, what you're getting in business with, and he's deteriorated physically. He lost a home playoff game to Jimmy Garoppolo. What else do you need to see? And that was before he did his Achilles. He lost a home playoff game to Jimmy Garoppolo. That's like turning in your man card. I mean, really? Jimmy Garoppolo. Home playoff game.
It's pretty much.
Really?
He doesn't care. Aaron Rodgers has been about himself.
He didn't care about that either.
No. He's been about himself. I just.
Can you imagine, not to make light of anything, Angel. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
you imagine. Now, I work for the guy, and he's been my friend for almost 30 years. But you imagine what Tom Brady would be like if he lost a home friggin' playoff game to Jimmy Garoppolo?
No. He would go absolutely.
He's got 7 Super Bowls. I wouldn't sleep for a month because guess what I'd be doing? Going over the tape. But I mean, it's like it's like, do you have any pride in what you do for work and living? I mean, because he does it. That's no problem. You cannot be a part-time quarterback.
Correct.
And you can be a part-time pro athlete and be successful. You know, all the greats like Lawrence Taylor got hired into hitting people. That's why he quit. You know, some guys can't run anymore. Some guys, you know, it gets harder to prepare and train. That's kind of where Tom was, because Tom wants to be a dad and do other things. And he's not going to half-ass it. He could still probably play and be good, but he just doesn't want to do it anymore. So it is what it is, but it's just nuts. It really is.
It is. It's well.
And it couldn't happen on a nicer team or better organization.
Exactly.
So should we talk about Michigan, because Joey B is going nuts?
Sure. Yeah. Let's bring up his.
Okay. So first part.
Yep.
You said 7 wins. They got how many? They got now 5. They will get to 7. They will get to 7. If they're at 5, I think they're at 5. They will get to 7. I think that re-energizes the team, the quarterback change. In Davis coming in and doing well. And our defense played really well. And obviously, Orji coming in with the change of pace and the runs was a big part of the game. That was a season-changing win because, you know, here's the great stat. Coach Moore became the first coach in Michigan history to beat Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan State his first try. Because remember, he was the interim coach last year when the Jim Harbaugh shit show was going on. So so it's great for Coach Moore. It helps recruiting. The kids played hard. I think it was a turning point when he went ape on the offensive line. You know, everybody saw it on TV. Because remember, he used to be the line coach. Those are his boys. And, you know, one of his players got hurt. Bad Gentry got hurt. He went out and checked. So I think he's kind of growing in the job. He's under tremendous pressure, and, you know, replacing Jim, who's a legend here. He played here. He won the national championship. Blah, blah, blah. A lot of guys went to the pros. We just had Blake Corum back as our honorary captain. JJ's coming back this weekend. JJ McCarthy coming back to be our honorary captain. So we're replacing a lot of guys. Our league is better with the Pac-12 teams coming in, the better quarterbacks, better teams. Penn State's got a veteran quarterback. Ohio State's got a veteran guy who's new to their team. I mean, there's a lot of changes within our league. I mean, you're just talking about Sigeti and how good Indiana is. You know, it's a tough year for us to be in a transition to quarterback because even Michigan State's quarterback's pretty good. I mean, he does some dumb things, but that's young guy mistake stuff. They'll be fine. But, you know, and it's funny, you bring up, Joey B brings up, I'm very calm, believe it or not, during our games. And I don't go to the games. I stay at home and listen on the radio usually. I'm pretty calm, and I usually don't watch the games. I have YouTube TV, and I'm an old school guy. Don't tell anybody, I'm going to be 53 in about 10 days. But I like to listen on the radio. That's why I love Pete, because I grew up listening to radio. And, you know, and I go watch the tape later. It's all over YouTube and Michigan Athletics and so forth. Yep. So I think we'll be fine. But I like Joey B's overrating my viewership. 100,000 people. I mean, that's how many people we got in the stadium. But believe it or not, where you would want to watch video on me and watch is the Mets games. That's when I get. That's the 4-letter words and things that come out of my mouth are not really are family programming. But yeah, it's and the Bruins. The Bruins are another one. Those are the teams I've consistently followed my whole life. I got into Michigan in high school. You know, people don't understand this today, and Angel, you and I do. But back in the day, there'd be like 3 college football games on over a weekend. You can watch any game you want now with all the streamings. And back in the day, you can only watch a couple of games. So you'd see Michigan against Notre Dame or Michigan against Ohio State or Alabama versus Auburn and things like that. So it was really interesting. So, you know, into my high school career and time is when Coach Schembechler was leaving Michigan and Lou Holtz was at Notre Dame. So they had the Rocket Ismail game, the Reggie Ho game, the Desmond Howard game. Those are all the games I grew up watching. So I got into college football. And in all honesty, I got into college football because of Doug Flutie being at Boston College, and they had great run with him there. He started at QB for 3.5 years. And, they were a big draw. I mean, they played games at the old Patriots Stadium a couple times. They shorted the power out one time. But, no, I think we're going to be fine. I think there's going to be some things coming with our portal and our recruiting and so forth. There's going to be a new commitment. There's the president and the athletic director really driving things. We'll be fine here at Michigan. I mean, and Joey, just remember something. Hey, we won the Natty.
Yep.
The last 14 playoff Natty we won. And we went undefeated, won the Big Ten.
Now,
obviously.
Tonight, switching back over towards the NFL, you have probably the most non-exciting game between the Steelers and the Giants. Obviously, Giants.
I got to tell you my story on this game.
Sure.
So, the one fantasy team I care about we have like a 13-point lead, and it should be much more than that. But that made of glass Jordan effing Mason on the 49ers getting hurt after he got us 1.8 points. So he's hurt. He's playing in the game. Our lead stays right at about 13. We're playing George Pickens tonight. So we need George Pickens either to be really bad or my hair might grow back. But yeah, it's not good. And I think on my two other leagues I won, and my other one I'm losing by a lot. But the one I care about is we've got about less than a 13-point lead. We're against George Pickens. So I hope Russell Wilson gets hit by lightning or something. So and Pickens does too. But yeah, and it's hard. You're right, because both these teams are kind of boring. They have really good pass rushes. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Giants, the one thing they do really well, and it's going to be interesting because, Daniel Jones doesn't respond well to getting hit. I mean, who does? But the pass rush and stuff gets to him, TJ Watt and friends and Highsmith. It's going to be crazy. So, yeah, great call by Joey. Yeah, my high school team's games are still on cable, and I get to watch on YouTube and so forth. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great about Joey B. No, Joey, did you watch Rutgers when Doug Gable was there? Doug Gable was the coach of Rutgers when I was in high school. And then Marco Battaglia and Ray Lucas. I was in camps with Ray Lucas.
We had just mentioned Pete before he went on vacation. It was that Monday because we were talking about the different things. And Joey B makes me laugh because every time he talks about if everybody remembers these squiggly lines on the cable boxes when it came around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you had the old Gerard ones that,
So, yeah.
Brown remote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
the other thing you used to do, you'd get the audio for 1 second, then it'd disappear and come back.
Yeah.
So you couldn't follow the game.
It was.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great.
It was a good time. And a lot of people don't know. So you had, and I know the name will come to me after show is over, but for the former CEO of Comcast, the way cable got started was where he lived out in Pennsylvania. It was, he basically just, had the old antenna and then ran up to the house and then figured out if he extends it a little bit higher, he would be able to get some more channels in. Of course, everything was over the air back in the day. So then he decided, well, his neighbors want to know exactly what he was doing. So he ran just basically an extension antenna line over to the neighbor's house. Then that neighbor ended up getting excited about it. And then it went to the community. Before you know it, he decided to kick off Comcast, which was, back in the day, I mean, it was absolutely nothing. But, turn around now, of course, they're the conglomerate, company that's out there. But listen, not everyone could afford cable back in the day.
I know who the founder is. It's Mr. Roberts.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew that. Now, the other thing is the owners of the Celtics, Wick Grossbeck, that his family was in Cablevision. So his dad, Mr. Grossbeck, Wick Grossbeck's dad, was a Cablevision guy in Massachusetts in the Worcester area. So that's why I knew what. Yeah. See, well, Joey, that's the point. Rutgers was bad. They got good when Coach Grable was there, and they had Marco Battaglia, Malik Jackson was the safety, and then Ray Lucas. So, and I know all these things because don't laugh. Oh, you can all laugh. Rutgers recruited me in high school. That's why they're bad. They were bad. But yes, so I knew about these guys. And
No,
yeah, it's crazy. Stop laughing, Joey.
Listen,
I was in camps with Ray Lucas, Kerry Collins, and Ron Powlis, and a whole bunch of other guys. Todd Collins, who played here at Michigan, played in the NFL for about 15 years. But yeah, I was literally in camps, and they do everything in alphabetical order. I'm with Kerry Collins, Todd Collins, Ray Lucas, I just said, and there was one other guy. Brian Forte. I was with all these guys. Fortes, who Pete will like because he was a Miami guy. Yeah, it was crazy back in the day, the quarterbacks. But yeah, and of course I'm 5'0" and I'm with Kerry Collins and Todd Collins, and they're all 6'4", 6'5". So, and Ray Lucas was awesome. Ray Lucas, and he had a nice career in the NFL. He does a great job on the Jets media. But Ray Lucas was a really good player, and he had a nice career in the NFL.
Yeah, it was some of these guys. I mean, some place you're right, because Rutgers wasn't good back in the day. They finally started finding their
Well, the first era Schiano, they got to number 2 in the country. I mean,
yeah.
when people forget that, and I think they beat Louisville at the time, and they got to number 2 in the country. It's like how BC was when Matt Ryan was there. When Matt Ryan was at BC, they got to number 2 in the country. And they had just beat Virginia Tech, and then I think the next week they lost to Florida State at home. But no, it's the college football is going to stabilize more, Angel, with the NIL and the money, because you're going to get back to how it used to be with 4 or 5 big power teams. The Alabamas and Michigans going through coaching transitions and so forth. There's going to be other teams going out and not being as good. With coaching changes and so forth. And, just looking at Indiana coming out of nowhere and just being this good. They're legit.
Yeah. Well, now you figure that, I mean, at this point, you have Cam Ward has already said he is not entering the draft this season. He is staying put.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. He said he's staying put in Miami because he is supposedly getting some $21 million deal next year to stay at Miami. So he will be.
I mean, that's Pete's moving a lot of bread to do that, huh?
Apparently.
$21 million. Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. It is insane. Beav says Jesus H. Christmas, Great Will Lucas, etc. Yeah, well, listen, I mean, you got an historian here.
Yes.
A historian and Beav. All right. Yeah. As the night blew by here real quick, we have come here to the end of the show, and we're going to be back here once again on Wednesday. Don't forget that Beav joins me every Friday at 11 o'clock, barring, some crazy weather outcome or something else. But he is on Fridays with me as well in the morning. So
I'm dealing with Pete tomorrow at 8:30.
Yes, that is true. And he'll be back on at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Somebody's going to keep him in line. So he's going to kill me for the Jets. He and I were already talking about this. He's going to murder me for the Jets.
Joey B. He finished up with Rutgers, would play at the Meadowlands and Giants.
So it's funny that Joey B. brings it up because remember, Joey, you remember this. He used to have the Kickoff Classic there. Like Auburn was in it one year. I know Penn State played Nebraska one year. And it was funny. The place would be banged out with those fans. And then when Rutgers played there, it'd be like 5,000. It'd be like 5 people at the game. What's he talking about? But yeah, it's pretty funny. It brings it. But those old school college football, yeah.
Yeah, he said it was scary to go to a Rutgers game at Giants Stadium. My dad would give us $10 and tell us to get lost into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I remember there was another one in I think 91 where I think it was Nebraska and maybe Georgia Tech. And there was another one, Florida State, Kansas State. There were a couple of these. The old Kickoff Classic one was a big deal. But I remember Auburn and I think Florida State when Bo Jackson was playing. But yeah, it was crazy. College football has completely changed. There's going to be more changes with the NIL and the full scholarships and everything, paying the players and everything. It's going to be really interesting.
It is.
You and I will talk about it, Angel.
Yeah. Now, what? Because again, listen, you and I mentioned as we're closing out the show here, but it's.
Go ahead.
I just hope it doesn't get to the point where it's too outrageous. It's good now, and we're all happy.
What do you mean, like $21 million for a quarterback at Miami?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. Now, alleged, supposed. it's said that it's not supposed to go.
Alleged and supposed, my two favorite cousins, but continue.
It's not supposed to get any higher than that, but we all know how things can change, or you do little side deals here and there. So listen, in this pocket, there's 10 million, and that pocket over there you can't see is 31 million. I mean, it's going to happen.
So just so you people understand what Angel's saying are the 21 million. That's what most college football teams think they need to spend, because you need about $500,000 for each guy that's going to play. So that number is, and that's a number that's been floated to me and others about other programs. You know, Ryan Day talked about $15 million like 3 years ago. And obviously with the rate of inflation, you know, and not even joking with the political climate, but inflation, it's normal. Things go up. It's like the salaries, 30 years ago, and Mike Schmidt was making $1 million, and he was the highest paid player. Using Mike Schmidt and George Brett as examples, but it's changed, and we'll see. But it's gonna be really interesting. But yeah, that's the first I heard about Cam Ward. By the way, Michigan talked to him, and I heard about that this weekend, and he got more money. And it wasn't just Miami; there were other people.
Must be nice. That's all I got to say. It must be freaking nice to be, 21, 22 years old. You get that kind of freaking money. Just make sure you bank it. So,
I mean, Angel, I'm going to let you know a secret. I do love you, buddy, but if somebody showed up on my door with $21 million when I was 21, 22 years old, you wouldn't see me.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, I wouldn't hate you for it, because there's no way that kind of crazy money. That's insane. Because you got to think about it. I mean, hopefully, the only thing I wish that I mention this all the time is that I just wish, like when you're in high school, that some financial advisor would come in and say, listen, let me speak to these students who are looking to prosper and do other things other than athletics. And now my athletic students, let me pull you to the side and show you and ask you, and then tell you what you should be doing with your money so that later on in the future, you will be set for life. And I think that's the one thing that's missing.
The Shaquille O'Neal video where he tells the kids to set aside money. And I think it's like he explained how you save your money, and look at how successful Shaq is with all his businesses and so forth. And Magic's the same way. Yep. But yeah, so it's interesting, but no, it's good. It's a whole other show for me and you to do, buddy. We'll do it Wednesday, and we'll do it tomorrow with Pete. Pete's just going to beat on me about the Jets. He's going to kick my ass for half an hour.
That he is.
He's going to be he's warming up in the bullpen. He's going to bring the heaters. Okay, buddy. But good to talk to you. Joey B, thanks for chiming in, everybody. Angel, have a good night, buddy. And again, condolences to you and your friends with the coach there, Don. What an awful story. And,
no problem.
Godspeed.
Yep. No problem. Thank you. And for everyone else, we will see you tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock with the Pete Shepard Show. And don't forget, right after this show, Lloyd will be on at 8 o'clock tonight for Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 102.9 with his co-host, Kevin Midget. So thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to Joey B and everyone who tuned in today. For the folks over on social media, we appreciate it. Beav will be back on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock all over again. So with that being said, Joey B says, if someone showed up with a free Slurpee for me on Beav's doorstep, I'd leave just for that. Listen, Joey B, you might have a good point. You may have a good point, sir. But thank you all. Thanks again to Joey B. And we will talk to you tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Until then, have yourselves a good rest of your evening. I guess go Steelers. We'll see how that works out for them. And, well, just don't forget to love one another. All right. Have yourselves a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.